when I first saw his credentials, I was very, very happy. Abdul Haleem, he's a graduate, he's born in Egypt. He's a graduate of Azhar and Cambridge. So Azhar University in the Muslim world and Cambridge University here. And he's been teaching Arabic language at Cambridge and London University since 1966. And currently is a professor of Islamic studies at SOAS. And so the translation, I have to say, is very good. It is good. It's in modern English, and it's basically block text. It's paragraphs, as you can see. There's no individual verses. So this is the first translation which I've come across, really, that you can sit down and read as a book. And you can read, and you can actually just flows, and you can keep on reading it. Other translations, really, I mean, to be honest, myself personally, you'd find that because they're structured in verses, you read 10 verses, 15 verses, you have to put it down and relax for a little while and then start reading it again. This is the first one I found that you can actually read as if you're reading a book and just keep on reading it from beginning to end. The English is very nice. And one thing he's done different from other translators is other translators generally look at, for example, for the earlier tafseers, they go to Zamakhshari, the Mu'tazili tafsir. Especially the Orientalists, they like going to Zamakhshari a lot for their tafsir. What he's done is he's ignored Zamakhshari altogether. And he's gone to Abu Hayyan and Razi for the tafsir and understanding of the verses. And he's used their conclusions to the verses for his translation. And both Abu Hayyan is very close to Orthodox Islam. In fact, he was regarded to be from Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And Razi, he's got some very nice insights. As anybody's read Razi, he's got some very nice insights to his tafsir. And that is reflected in this translation. So you find the linguistic aspect and the accuracy and the conclusions of both Abu Hayyan, classically speaking, and Razi, classically speaking, reflected in this translation. The thing that's worrying about this translator is his introduction and his notes. They show a very strong modernist trend. So again, he has the common modernist problem about women witnesses and the punishments of Islam and so on and so forth. So all of these things he has got issues with. And he in fact says they are no longer relevant in the modern context. So for example, the 2 women witnesses to 1 male witness, he says is not relevant in the world today at all. So he's cancelled out effectively in that ruling from the Qur'an. Even though the translation of that ayah is accurate and good, this is what he states in his notes and in his introduction. Okay, continuing. The next modern major translation that's been done, again by an Orientalist, is by Alan Jones, who I've talked about previously. This was done in 2007. And as I said, Alan Jones, he's taught Arabic for 43 years at the Oxford University, and his expertise is pre-Islamic poetry, and early Islamic literature. And when you read his translation, you do get the very strong impression that this is a man who's really understood Arabic. Okay, he's really understood the Arabic language, and he's actually understood, in many places, but not all places, the style of the Qur'an. So his translation, again, I like his translation a lot. The problem with this translation is his notes, his footnotes. When you read his footnotes, some of his footnotes rather, not all of his footnotes, you get the impression that you've gone back to the Orientalism of these people that we talked about earlier, back in the 1900s, very early. He's basically stepped back 1 century in his footnotes. So lots of accusations, lots of claims about Islam that are not really accurate. He frequently makes a claim that the verses of the Qur'an that were revealed in Mecca were rewritten again by Prophet Muhammad in Medina in his footnotes. So his footnotes are problematic in many of them. But in some of his footnotes, really, he's got some really nice insights and very nice defenses, really nice defense of the Qur'an. So, for example, in Surah Yusuf, when he comes to, in his introduction, he says that a lot of the Orientalists have criticized the Qur'an, this chapter, Surah Yusuf, because they say that as a story, it doesn't flow very well. As a story, it's missing lots of bits. And it's true, if you read Surah Yusuf, historically speaking, as a historical narrative, it's missing lots of bits. And then he makes a really, really nice point, I think. He says that the problem with the Orientalists is that they are reading the Qur'an, they are not listening to the Qur'an. Yeah, and he makes this very important. It's very important. They are reading the Qur'an, they are not listening to the Qur'an. He says that the Qur'an was an oral transmission, and it's there for reading and listening and reciting and listening to, not writing down in a book. Primarily, that's what it was for. And he said, if you listen to Surah Yusuf, you find that Surah Yusuf is exactly what it should be. Yeah, Surah Yusuf this is his words. It's exactly what it should be. And the Orientalists, because they have not listened to the Qur'an, Surah Yusuf, they have not understood the purpose and the language of that particular surah. So, I actually find that a very insightful comment coming from a kafir. One thing he has done which is very strange, he says that he's based his translation on the Hafs reading, but in some places he's decided to use a Warsh reading. Yeah, so he's based his translation in the Hafs reading, but in some places he's decided to use the Warsh reading, and he's put a footnote wherever he's done this. But this is very strange because he's basically mixing different recitations in one translation, and from our point of view, this is not something that's done. And in his notes, he comes across as very arrogant as well. He doesn't like the Muslim verse numbering. For example, he wants to do his own different system of verse numbering of the Quran, which he thinks is better than the Muslim one. Which he says that, but because this is how this has been translated classically, he's going to stick to the Muslim system, even though he doesn't agree with it. He thinks it's wrong. Which I think is a very arrogant comment, but then you expect that from non-Muslims. So generally the translation I like, it's a good translation. The main problem with him is his footnotes and his endnotes and his introductions to each surah. The latest translation done of the Quran is this one here. And it's a very, as one brother put it, a very handsome product. It's very nice. It's done by a Muslim. The Quran, a translation by Tarif Khalidi. And Tarif Khalidi is a graduate of the Oxford and Chicago universities, originally born in Jerusalem in 1938. And he was a teacher of history for many years, and now he's a professor of Arabic language at Cambridge University. And he's translated this again in modern English, and it is very, very nice flowing English. It's very, very nice in terms of, and again he's paragraphed it. So instead of a verse by verse translation, you can see the close boys, you can see it's actually in paragraphs. And as I said, it's a very nice translation, very readable. But unfortunately, in order to make the translation very readable in modern English, he's taken a lot of liberties in the translation. And in some places, I would have to say the translation is actually quite accurate. He's sacrificed accuracy for the flow of the language in English. But those inaccuracies are very minor. They're not serious. So again, this is a very good translation. And it's very, very nice and very easy to read. Again, a book you can just sit down and read from cover to cover without any real problem. So those are really the summary of the translations. I wanted to go starting from the 11th century or 12th century up to 2008. As for translations that I would recommend, is that the next slide? Okay, I haven't put translations I would recommend for dawah purposes for non-Muslims and for Muslims who don't really understand. I've got a list here. I put Sahih International first because Naif would beat me up if I didn't do that. But really, my favorite, without doubt, which I'd recommend to give to non-Muslims and Muslims who are not practicing, is a Noble Quran. Is Aisha Buli's translation. This is the one I'd recommend to give out. And after that one, the Abdul Haleem translation, I'd recommend. And then in third and fourth place together, I'd recommend these two, which are the Tarif Khalidi and the Noble Quran. I mean, the Quran is the Sahih International version. Yeah. So those are the four that I would really recommend. The Orientalist endeavors, they're really there for people who want to make an academic study of Orientalist efforts in translation of the Quran and Orientalist polemic, really. but they're not really for us to give to non-Muslims or to even read for ourselves or give to a general Muslim. So those are the 4 translations that I would recommend Muslims and non-Muslims to read. The Noble Qur'an, the Qur'an by Abdul Haleem, Tarif Khalidi, and the Sahih International.